If I had left that phone where I found it, maybe I'd still sleep straight through until morning. Maybe the corners of my room wouldn't murmur when the clock hits 3. But I didn't leave it. It was half buried in damp leaves just off the trail near my house, the one I walk when my head is a mess. The sky was bleeding out orange, leaking into violet. Under the canopy, it was already evening. It's a kind that smothers sound and swallows color whole. I'd gone out to quiet the noise in my life. Bills, a boss who emails at midnight, a heart that stutters for no medical reason. The woods were supposed to be the place where things stopped touching me. At first, I thought the phone was trash, cracked, mud slick, its case gouged by rock or teeth. I nudged it with my boot, already forming the sentence I'd tell myself later. You didn't really see it. Then something winked in the dirt. Blink, blink. A red dot. Recording dot. Phones don't keep recording like that. Not when they're waterlogged and abandoned and blind. The thought came with a cold, practical clarity. Walk away. But curiosity is a blade with 2 edges, and I've always been the idiot who tests how sharp it is. I crouched, wiped a clean stripe into the screen with my thumb, and it came awake. 1 file, timestamped less than 3 hours earlier. If I had any sense, I would have set it back into the leaves and scuffed it deeper. Instead, I tapped play. The video opened on panic. The camera jolted, trees smeared into gray ribs, the ground lunging up and away, boots thrashing across wet earth. Whoever held the phone was running hard. The mic gulped air in raw animal gasps. For a time, it was only vertigo and breath. Then the filmer spoke, voice cracked and thin. If you find this, run. They tripped. The picture pitched into a slurry of leaves, a socked foot, a gulp of sky. The frame lay on its side, the world now a crooked horizon trunk, leaf, darkness. Then came a sound that didn't belong to the runner. Footsteps, not frantic, not light, something heavier. Each step deliberate, measured, coming closer. Please, the voice whispered, off camera, small and scraped. Please, don't. Static. Chewed the frame to bone. I replayed the last seconds, leaning closer, as if proximity could pull detail out of the blur. The footsteps seemed wrong on the video, too close to present. When I pulled off my earbud, the sound didn't stop. Was standing where the video had ended. The same scalloped roots, the same elk print in the mud, the same deadfall with bark peeled like a scab. The realization slid into my stomach like a cold key turning in the wrong lock. I should have left. Instead, I scanned the direction the runner had fled and stepped into it. The woods felt recently disturbed. Little branches had snapped low, not the way deer browse, but like elbows had smashed through. The mud wore a confusion of prints, a small boot treading over itself, sliding. Something broader that didn't sink as deep. Every sound I made sounded borrowed, like it belonged to someone else in front of me, and I was only echoing them. Then everything stopped. The wind, the midges, even the small click of my jaw when I swallow. Silence pressed at me, the kind that builds pressure in your ears until you hear your own bloodstream. Something metallic hung in the air, of faint temps, like wires stressed to a hum. A head, a sleeve snagged on a thorn, the cuff torn and damp. A little farther, a backpack canted on its side, one strap snapped, zipper teeth full of mud. I crouched and pawed gently through it. Papers smeared, a flashlight that pulsed once and died. A gum wrapper folded around nothing, not staged. Dropped. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I don't get service out there. No one does. The screen lit anyway. Unknown number. Keep going. The words sat very calmly where words belong. It's black on white, like they were rational. The rational thing would have been laughing a glitch, a delayed text, a pocket send from earlier, but my hand shook and the text waited like it had always been there, like it had always been meant for me. I locked the screen and told myself a collection of friendly lies. I kept walking. The first claw marks appeared on a birch, 3 deep cuts, perfectly parallel, not ragged, not the errant art of an animal. They were 2 straight, deliberate as tally marks. The sap ran clear and sticky. When my knuckle brushed it, a sweet scent rose like bruised grass and sugar rotting. I wiped my hand against my jeans, and it left a tacky trail that caught the light like a smear of stars. The quality of the dark changed. It became textured, full of pockets that watched. Lots of kinds of black you don't see in city shadows. Dense, purposeful. I lifted my cheap flashlight, the beam jittering. Between the trunks, I saw the suggestion of angles that didn't belong in forests. A corner, a line too straight to be made by time. A laugh rippled through the trees. Not loud, not even playful. Little test laugh, like someone had wondered whether the sound would carry. The found phone in my other hand vibrated. Without me touching anything, a new video began to play. The filmer's breath shredded the soundscape, words hitching. He's behind me. God, he won't stop. The camera whipped around. For a fraction, the beam caught something in its edge. A figure, too tall, head cocked to a painful angle, as if listening for something underground. Limbs, not where limbs should end. Then the scream ripped the air high with surprise and furious with effortless static ate it whole. I lowered the phone. The hollow eyes stood in the dip of mud, the halo of fallen leaves. The 2 stones like asleep animals was the hollow. On the screen, the path behind me looked dimmer, like the trees had closed the ribs of themselves over it. The path ahead narrowed to the idea of a path. My phone buzzed again, calm, patient. Unknown number. Keep watching. I moved because standing felt like volunteering. A jacket lay further on, mud-soaked and heavy. Broken glasses slumped in the dirt. One arm bent hard, back like a wing. No blood, no body. I told myself the person had escaped. People drop things when they don't want to die. Touched the lens. Gentle. It cracked like thin ice. A little line racing. Okay. And there went the promise I'd made 3 seconds earlier not to touch anything else. Another video launched on its own. The filmer sobbed between prayers. The name of someone's God, braided with ugly breath. Then a voice that wasn't theirs slid through the speakers. A low, conversational tone you use when you don't want to wake someone. You shouldn't be here. I dropped the phone, thumped into leaves, and rolled to show me my own shin, my boot, the white of my fingers. The same sentence breathed into the air behind my ear at the exact same time. I felt it graze the delicate hairs there, as if sound had weight, as if words had lips. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Look up. I lifted my light to the nearest tree. The bark had been worked by a sharp thing, not a knife. Something that didn't mind tearing a little. My name was there, letters furrow deep. Not old. Fresh enough that sap was glassing in the grooves. You never feel how long your name is until it's carved into something that can't love you back. On the found phone, new folder blinked into being after it shouldn't have been there a second ago, but it sat like it always had, quietly confident. Inside were clips with timestamps, a few minutes ahead of now 3, 7, 12 minutes into my future. My throat made a sound it usually doesn't, a kind of dry click that didn't feel like it came from a human throat. I opened the first clip. The angle was impossible. It showed Mimi standing under that carved tree, fingers tracing fresh grooves that wept sap. My breath fogged in little ghosts. My mouth moved, saying something I couldn't hear. The me in the video looked up and pivoted, light glancing off the wet bark. And I saw the exact way my shoulder lifts when I'm about to do something reckless. The clip ended on my hand, fingers trembling. I watched my own tremor. The second file loaded itself. I ran in it, branch whips stinging my face, flashlight ripping spastic circles on trunks. My voice came out high and breathless, an ugly sound I didn't recognize as mine because I'd never heard it in a throat before. "Don't pick it up," I begged myself. "Don't." The picture died between syllables. The third clip began without asking me. I watched my hand, but wearing the jacket I threw out months ago for smelling like bonfire and damp, set the phone carefully into the leaves. Gentle, intentional, it adjusted the angle as if composing something. Then the frame held steady on the path. A few seconds later, present tense me walked into the shot. I stared at my own back. I tilted a little to the right as I walked, same as I always do because my left knee sticks sometimes. The clip ended with a whisper, half mind, half not. He always looks. It wasn't hunting me, it was keeping time. The idea arrived whole, like a bell rung inside bone. The tally marks, the text messages that already knew when to arrive. The folder, named for what comes next. The red blink keeping pace with my pulse. A metronome that didn't count music. Something cold and utterly patient stood behind me, or above me, or inside the idea of me. I didn't turn. I felt fingers too many, or too few, or arranged wrong set themselves on my shoulder the way you'd pause a friend to tell them a joke. Every muscle in my face smiled without me. I don't know how I got home. That's not a figure of speech. I mean, there are frames missing from the film of that evening, a smear where minutes should be. I have flashes, the taste of sap on my tongue, mud shocked cold between my fingers, the sensation that my legs were moving and I had been uninvited. From the decision, then I was at my desk. My lamp made a lemon-shaped puddle of light. The found phone lay in that circle like a small animal pretending to be asleep, blank, empty, no files, no folders. Its cracked screen reflected the lamp like a coin at the bottom of a shallow well. In the middle of the black, a red dot blinked. It blinked and blinked and blinked. I slept poorly and woke at 3 a.m. to the soft sound of recording. Not my phone's company chime, not a glitch. Sound like breath on glass. I unlocked it and there were no notifications. But when I set it on the nightstand and turned off the lamp, the red light winked twice and held as if it had finally made eye contact. The next night, the same. 3 o'clock, precisely. Red, red, red. Sometimes it plays by itself. I'll be brushing my teeth and my bedroom will make the small, dry cough of a video beginning. I'll run in and find the phone lying belly up on my blanket, blank screen. Patient. Dot. My name will breathe from the dark, as if someone in the house has a mouthful of it. The text continued. No number, no thread history. Always at the edge of service, a bar that comes and goes like a cat. They arrive like a hand placed calmly on the back of my neck. Unknown number. Don't be late. Unknown number. We start at 3. Unknown number. He always looks. One night, I made the mistake of answering. Who are you? I typed with my thumb arched so I could throw the phone if it bit me. The bubble turned blue. The dots came quick. Unknown number. We are what happens after. I shut the phone off. It turned itself back on. I took the SIM out. The texts kept arriving. Got a thing in the freezer because that's a folk trick people tell each other in the break room when they run out of real advice. It beeped after midnight, muffled by frozen peas. Perhaps this sounds like a subtle haunting, a low boil that could be ignored if you were busy or mean or brave. I was not brave. I was precise. I began to log things, because that's the religion of people who can't stop anything but want to pretend they can. On Tuesday, the dot blinked in a pattern. Long, short, short. On Wednesday, the after folder came back for 10 minutes. When I tapped, it opened 2 files named with dates that haven't come yet. On Thursday, I woke with dirt under my nails and a smear of sap on my wrist, sweet as fruit, gone sour. On Friday, 2:59 a.m., the red light turned steady and held. It held for a full minute without blinking. When the minute turned, the dot resumed. Its polite beat, the exactness felt like a demonstration. A lesson a teacher shows you once, so you know there's a test. I told myself stories. It's an elaborate prank, a glitch, a sleep disorder, a grief I don't have the language to admit. Then the phone began to show me places I hadn't gone yet. I was washing dishes when a thumbnail appeared and slid aside on its own. No hands on the glass, just a new thing acting like it had always been there. The file was named with my address, in 8 digits, inside my living room from the angle of the ceiling corner. Me, asleep on the couch, jaw slack, one hand flung out, looking ugly and human. The timestamp was 3 hours in the future. I sat at the table and waited with the lights on. When the time arrived, I fell asleep on the couch in the shape of the man in the clip. It wasn't dramatic. No whisper commanded me. No feeling crept. Tired touched me, and I slept. A few minutes later, the video on my phone played without my finger. It matched perfectly. The glass showed me from the ceiling corner. My mouth did what my mouth had done. Later, in the shower the part of the day, we forgive ourselves for thinking we have the comforting thought that our habits make us safe. The phone disabused me of that. It made me a habit. It broke me down into prediction. It kept time the way a butcher keeps weight. I tried to give it away. I left it on a bus bench, red-eye peering up at the guttered afternoon. I watched from across the street from behind an ad for mattresses as a teenager lifted it, smirked, pocketed it. Relief hit like sugar. Then my own pocket buzzed. The phone was where my wallet should have been. The bench lay empty. Across the street, a boy stared at his empty hand like he dreamed a thing and woke mid-dash grasp. I tried to smash it. I rolled a towel around it and hit it with a hammer so my downstairs neighbor wouldn't be scared. The towel split. It's a screen. Spiderwebbed. The dot blinked. When I unrolled the towel, the cracks were gone. There were no scratches on the glass. There was a wet leaf stuck in the charging port, as if it had spent the day sleeping in damp earth. I asked the question people eventually ask when they've tried everything that pretends to be an answer. What do you want? The phone did not respond with text. It responded with timing. 2:57 a.m. A long buzz. 2:58 a.m. 2:59 a.m. 3 a.m. The red dot held steady, bright as a small wound. The room pressed in. The air took on the weight of a waiting thing. I thought of the woods, the carved birch, the sap that glittered like a street scene through rain. I did not want to go back. Want did not enter into it. My front door, latched and deadbolted, opened with the sound of a tongue pulling free of a tooth. The hall beyond was dark in the way a place is dark when it's been dark a long time. My phone lit and pipped a little. Notification beep. No text appeared. The Found Phone's camera app opened by itself. The screen showed my hallway and a sliver of streetlight on the floor. The phone twisted in my palm the way a small animal finds its comfortable position in your hand. It began to record. I know how this sounds as if I'm bending my own fear into mythology because it's easier to share a story than a diagnosis. Believe what helps you sleep and you'll be right for you. I only have the thing that looks like a truth in the morning light. The phone is less a device than a habit you can hold. It counts. It makes copies. Keeps time like a shepherd keeps a flock, nudging, bounding, peering at the edge of vision to convince the sheep they chose the meadow. I stood in my doorway and felt that polite hand again, stopping me as if to tell a joke. I smiled with my teeth. The hallway smelled like wet leaves and the electric smell of something about to fail. It was around then that I realized the tally marks on the birch weren't just marks. 3 lines. 3 a.m. teaching me to be on time. What does it want? It wants the thing after you. The version of you that fits the metronome. The one that always looks. Weeks have gone by, and I have learned some small rules that behave like safety until they aren't. If I pretend not to hear the video start, a T plays softer. If I set my own phone face down at night, the red light reflects in the wood like it prefers to watch something. If I talk to it like it's an old friend passing through town, nothing heavy, just weather and work the text come later. And I get an extra hour of the kind of sleep that doesn't bruise you. Last night though, it changed. The after folder opened at 2:56 a.m. Inside, one file, no name, just a single period. The thumbnail was black. Pressed it because, of course I did. The video was my bedroom in the present. No jump ahead, no gift of prophecy, no grace period. The camera pointed at me. I lay on my side, phone glowing in my hand, watching myself watch myself. I raised my hand in the video a fraction of a second. Before I raised it in bed, delay collapsed. The metronome had stopped counting ahead. Tia began to count with, if you've never watched your own present tense be predicted, you don't know the shape of that terror. It's small, it fits in your teeth. It makes you careful with even the smallest movements, like lifting your own eyelids. And I'm telling you all this because it feels like the last thing I get to decide. If you ever find a phone in the woods, especially if it's cracked and wet and blinking, leave it where it lies. Don't pick it up. Don't press play. It isn't a person asking for help. It's the idea of you learning your rhythm, measuring until you fit. The second your finger touches that glass, knows your name in the way a clock knows noon. There are people who will say they'd be smarter than me, that they'd turn and walk and never look back. Maybe you would. Maybe you won't hear your name breathed like a gift in the dark, or feel a hand on your shoulder that asks for nothing and takes time. Maybe you'll be the one who doesn't look out. So tell me honestly, what would you have done? Would you have left it in the leaves? Or would you have watched the video? Tell me, what would you have done? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you want more horror stories every week, subscribe to Bleak Veil. Until next time, check your phone. You never know who's holding the camera.